Touch your jaw right now. Not your face, but your jaw, right where it hinges below your ear. Are your teeth touching? Is there tension there that you didn't notice until now? Most people hold a lot of stress in that one joint all day without realizing it. The jaw doesn't complain like a clenched fist does. It just quietly holds the tension. Here's why it's your jaw, not your shoulder or stomach, that ends up storing everything you didn't say. Start with the muscle itself. The masseter, the main muscle that closes your jaw, runs from your cheekbone to the corner of your jaw. It is one of the strongest muscles in your body. It can generate bite forces well over 100 pounds in a healthy adult. This muscle is controlled by the trigeminal nerve, the fifth and largest of the 12 cranial nerves. This nerve gives your whole face its sensation. Every touch on your cheek, every temperature change on your lips, every twinge of a toothache goes through it. That's unusual. One nerve manages both the lightest sensations and the heaviest force your skull produces. The jaw doesn't just close. It does so constantly, mostly outside your awareness. Even when at rest, your jaw muscles maintain a low level of readiness. No other muscle group needs this in the same way because an unguarded jaw can lead to a bitten tongue or a chipped tooth every time you swallow, yawn, or get startled. This constant vigilance is what a stress response can quietly hijack. It can turn ordinary muscle tone into something much tighter for hours. But the real surprise is deeper, in the brainstem, in a structure called the mesencephalic trigeminal nucleus. Every other sensory neuron in your body has its cell body located outside the central nervous system, in a cluster called a ganglion. Each one except this one. The neurons that report your jaw's position and the force of your bite have their cell bodies located in the brainstem itself. Anatomists describe this as a sensory ganglion that migrated into the brain during development. It is the only structure of its kind in the whole human nervous system. Your jaw is the one part of your body whose position sense is wired directly into your central nervous system, with no peripheral relay in between. This matters because it means jaw proprioception is unusually close to the brain's threat detection circuitry. In 2024, researchers studying stress in rodents mapped this connection. They found a direct projection from the central amygdala, the brain's core fear and threat response center, straight into the jaw proprioception nucleus, the mesencephalic trigeminal nucleus. Chronic restraint stress activated this pathway, increased GABA activity in the amygdala, and caused measurable changes in the excitability of neurons within the jaw nucleus. This happened alongside typical anxiety behaviors in the animals and, importantly, increased masseter muscle activity. There was no learned association required, no conditioning trial. The threat signal reached the jaw muscle directly, as if the amygdala had a direct line to it, bypassing conscious thought or even regular motor planning. Your fear circuitry isn't just causing your jaw to clench as a side effect, it has a direct connection for it. The second layer is chemical, explaining why tension doesn't just spike and fade, it builds up. Under stress, cortisol levels rise. At the neuromuscular junction of jaw muscles, cortisol increases their sensitivity, making the same ordinary neural signal produce a stronger contraction than it would in a calm nervous system. When stressed, you're not necessarily sending a bigger clench signal. Your jaw just reacts more strongly to the same signal because cortisol amplifies the muscle's response, not the instruction it receives. Unlike the quick spike from adrenaline, which rises and falls within minutes, cortisol remains elevated for hours after stress has passed. That's why a bad meeting at 2 p.m. can still be affecting your jaw at midnight. It also explains something that seems impossible at first: stress-related grinding while you sleep, long after you've stopped consciously worrying about it. Researchers studying sleep bruxism found that higher evening cortisol levels predict more nighttime grinding, linked to more frequent microarousals, brief, subconscious awakenings, sometimes dozens each night, that each cause a burst of jaw muscle activity you won't remember in the morning, only the soreness that remains. Combine these two layers, and the picture becomes clear. The direct amygdala to jaw pathway delivers the stress signal in real time. Circulating cortisol then keeps that same jaw muscle ready and over-responsive for hours afterward, whether you're awake or asleep. This isn't just a metaphor for stress living in the body. It's two identified mechanisms acting on the same muscle. The consequences become noticeable when they accumulate. Clinicians tracking chronic clenching with ultrasound find measurable thickening of the masseter muscle over time in people with high stress-related bruxism. This shows visible, physical hypertrophy from months of overworking that muscle, sometimes changing the width of the lower jaw in the same way any muscle grows thicker under repeated strain. The temporomandibular joint, the small joint just in front of your ear, absorbs this extra force for years, leading to clicking, morning jaw pain, tooth wear that dentists notice before patients mention stress, and tension headaches that many treat as unrelated problems, seeking painkillers instead of addressing the jaw causing them. None of it presents itself as a single issue. It quietly manifests as many small, disconnected complaints that all trace back to the same overworked muscle. Now, for some clarity. The strength of the masseter and the anatomy of the trigeminal nerve are basic, well-known physiology. The mesencephalic nucleus has been established as unique, described since the early 20th century. The direct pathway from the amygdala to the jaw nucleus is real, but it has only been mapped in a rodent model of restraint stress, published in 2024. The human equivalent is inferred from shared brainstem architecture, not confirmed separately. Despite seeming like an obvious story of stress, research describes bruxism as multifactorial. Genetics, sleep structure, and other neurotransmitter systems are also involved. So while cortisol and the amygdala pathway contribute, they are not the only causes for everyone who grinds their teeth. What I keep coming back to is this. Of every joint and muscle group in your body, evolution created only one position sensing system without a peripheral relay, with no ganglions safely outside the skull, and it built it for the jaw, the one muscle group that can cause real damage to your mouth if it misjudges its force. This system was designed for safe biting. It was never made to handle a species that spends its whole life in traffic, meetings, and unfinished arguments. The wiring is ancient, but the workload is new. And it's all connected to your jaw right now, which is exactly why I asked you to check at the start. So check again. Unclench your jaw, let your back teeth part, and let your tongue rest off the roof of your mouth. This isn't a metaphor for letting go of stress. It's a direct, physical instruction to a nerve pathway that has been holding a signal long before you realized you were carrying it.